Questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told JC, Nate and Rich that good times are coming on E for deep diving. Van Cam's reactions, watch along to the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South stay flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Oh, boy. Big up everyone. This is the Fulham match reaction.
Do we have to do this? Please, do we really have to do this?
We did say we're not going to hide. We did say we're not going to hide. Listen, 3-0 defeat at Selhurst Park. And we were just terrible from start to finish. But as per usual, we do the rounds. JC, what do you say, my bro?
Yeah, man, I'm all good. I hope everyone's had a good Christmas. Rihanna's got COVID. I'm most likely going to get COVID in a second, so it is what it is, and it probably not made much better with Palace doing what they done. So, yeah, we need to vent. I had a little go on Twitter already, but I've got more to say.
Well, first things first, really hope you're feeling better soon. And don't worry, JC, you got the platform to vent. Don't worry about that. Nate, how you doing?
I don't know what was more painful, that game yesterday or me twisting my ankle. I'm thinking it was the game yesterday, to be truthful, because at least with my ankle being twisted, I've got the day off work tomorrow, so that's a positive. But I found no positives from that performance yesterday. But other than that, man, I'm good. I've worked all throughout Christmas, so my paycheck next week going to be very worrying. Taxman's going to swipe half my paycheck, but it is what it is. But I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, doing all right myself, man. Doing myself. Christmas was good. Lots of food and other beverages and stuff. Dad, how are you, my guy?
Yeah, all good. Christmas was good until Boxing Day. I've never been able to go to a Boxing Day game before because of normally I have family commitments, and let's say I'll never be going back on Boxing Day. It was that bad. It was that bad. But besides that, all good. Thank you.
Yeah, in all fairness, our Boxing Day record is terrible anyway.
Can I just say about that, right? You see the Boxing Day record. 2 London derbies in the last 2 years. We've had a player sent off in both games, or this time it was 2. Can we just not play a London team on Boxing Day, please? Because the stress levels just go through the roof with our fan base. But don't get it twisted, people. That's no excuse. We'll get into that. But, yeah, can somebody point to me where the Palace that played that liquid football in earlier on in the season was? Because I missed that Palace. We weren't winning all the time, but we were half decent to watch. But that game there, I was like, thank God I didn't pay 20 quid to watch this on Now TV. I've just saved some money.
It was terrible. But, let's start off with the starting lineup, because I know that raised a few eyebrows. For me, obviously looking at this lineup, the obvious inclusion for me personally was Tompkins. And the obvious exclusion was Edouard. Tompkins at centre back, I was just like, yeah. Like I just thought Mitch Fitz is like he's a handful, and then obviously the pace around him and the trickery around him, it's going to be a difficult game for him. Obviously in an attacking front, I was like, okay, Wolf's going up top, that's fine. But then I thought that would mean Ayew would be on the left and Olise on the right. And when I saw Eze on the left, I was like, this is just square. What's it? Square pegs, round holes. I think that's the saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was a mess. Olise looked lost in the middle. Eze looked lost out wide. He kept coming inside anyway. I'm going to go through like a kind of a tactical breakdown of it in a bit, but the lineups on Vieira, I think that set us up to not to win or not to lose, I should say, which completely backfired. Dan, thoughts on the starting lineup from your perspective?
For me, the one. I mean, I'll start with a positive. I think making Anderson the captain, I think was a great shout. I think he's definitely captain material. But for me, that was probably the only positive. I'll start with Elise playing in midfield. Because I don't think Elise works in midfield. I think if you're going to play Elise and Ayew, I think Jordan Ayew is much better suited to playing in the middle than Elise is. I think Jordan Ayew he's stronger, and I think he's also better at kind of like holding the ball up, linking the play a bit more. I think. And I think Elise is better off running down the wings. Also, as well, I think Eze on the left, like you said, Rich, I think Eze on the left is just a complete waste. QPR fans were saying that when they had him about 4 years ago, that he was a waste on the wings, which I completely agree. Why he wasn't playing in the holding, like in the 10, I don't know. Tompkins, I'm not gonna deride too much, because I think had Richards been a bit fitter, or had he not been injured for so long, I think he would have played instead. And I also think that like putting in a youngster who played well in someone like Kofi Baumer, I think may have been a bit much to start off with. And I know Ward is perhaps better on the right hand side of centre back than the left. So the centre back I'm not too upset about. But yeah, the others were really strange. And again, Wilf up front, I think similarly to Elise and Eze, I think again out of position. For me, Edouard's got to start up top at the moment. I think Edouard has been brilliant for what he's been given. I think he holds the ball up really well. He presses much better than Wilf. I think he's better at finishing as well. I think he's got a goal and assist pretty much every other game, which as a striker for a mid-table Premier League club, I think is a really good return. So why he didn't start, I'm not really too sure.
JC, obviously we haven't heard of any like niggles and stuff, but do you think that might have played a part in, let's just say, Edouard? Because there's been previous times where he's had like little niggles and stuff, or do you think this was just a very silly decision from PV?
I don't know. I reckon that Vieira probably thought to himself that he's making a very good tactical decision, same as what Fulham has done. They set up properly to counter us. I think maybe this was his attempt to counter them, but obviously, as we've seen, it didn't pay off at all. I think that Wilf up front, it really only works if you've got inside forwards. So, for example, Elise, who cuts in, and if anything, Edouard would be the guy on the left, because he is the guy that cuts in if you're playing him on the left wing. So I think that's probably the only scenario where Zaha actually works up front. And also you have to look at it and think, is he really going to get the better of Issa Diop? No, he's not. He got manhandled by him all game. The only way he got love out of the back line was when he actually pulled out wide to the wings. And even when he did, Issa Diop came running over there and just took the ball off him. Zaha looked off the pace until the first red card. After that, he bucked up his ideas and started properly pressing and trying. But unfortunately, at that point, it's too late. The game's already done. One red card and that's it in the Premier League is over. We saw that many times. If anything, we play worse against 10 men than we do against 11 men. But that's just a Crystal Palace thing, I think. But I think the setup was just all wrong. Elise in the midfield, it has never worked. I sit hearing some people around Cellar saying, oh yeah, he's bossing this midfield today. I'm saying he's really not. He's too weak. I think he needs a bit more stamina about him, because he does like to gas out about 65, 70 minutes when he's playing in midfield. And also, if you're in the midfield, you've got to be two-footed to some degree. There was a chance where he was clean through. He was in. The defender was to his left side. He had to go his right foot, and guess what? He spoons it over the bar. You need to have some sort of ability with both feet in midfield. And I was saying it to some people around me. When the ball gets knocked up to him, there was a chance where he could have touched the ball turned and passed on, but he just got shrugged off the ball. And unfortunately, I went to my dad and I said, look, Gallagher would have held that up. Gallagher would have progressed to play here. So we're definitely missing a midfielder because Elise hit that guy. I get why we're playing Ayew because he has that defensive work rate, which Elise just doesn't have. So I understand why he's playing. But I think if Ayew's playing out there to do that job, I reckon Elise shouldn't start in that case. Don't try and shoehorn him in just to get him in. Like if he does not fit in the system that you want to play in this match, don't play him. If the system ain't working, change the system and bring him on into a system he works in. Everyone's a system player. And I think some people just don't understand that, unfortunately.
You mentioned the midfield, and this is a nice segue to you, Nate. Like, we all know that we didn't get the extra midfielder we needed in the summer. We all know that. But we've also been crying out for a double pivot. Now, we know he's the mainstay. He's been brilliant for us and stuff. But at the same time, I feel like when we have Schlupp in midfield, he gets overrun and it leaves Decore doing way too much. Obviously, Hughes is like, but I still feel like a double pivot as opposed to a flat three or a 6-8-10 would work better. How do we think we rectify this midfield problem, especially before the win? Like, we're not guaranteed to get anyone in the window, which would be mad. But how do we rectify the midfield solution or rectify the midfield problem? Sorry.
Funnily enough, the only options we have is to trust the players that aren't getting minutes. I mean, would Luca have done any worse yesterday? Would Riedewald have done worse yesterday? For all the hate that these players get from the fan base, and to be fair, most of it is merited half the time, the players that have been getting away with murder, particularly over the last two games, because bear in mind, Dan and JC were at that Forest game. This is the first time in Premier League history a team has failed to have one shot on target in 2 consecutive games. We've had either side of that World Cup break to either experiment with youth, experiment with reserves, or get some of these players that were underperforming and ducking and diving responsibility to turn up and actually put a foot in and say, listen, we're going to try and make something happen here. A lot of people want to dig out James Tompkins for his sending off. I think Mitrovic, for want of a better word, was a bit of a clever bastard, but that's what you need to be in this game. The Mitchell sending off, let's be fair, if that's our player getting on the end of that tackle, we're all calling for a red card, so we can't really have an issue with that. The midfield option, though, to get back to your question, Rich, Hughes wouldn't have done any worse out there. Will Hughes is not the answer, but what is the question then? Because we were told after Roy Hodgson left, it's a rebuild process. All right, cool. We're not going to sign every player we need in one window. That's just not feasible. We don't have an endless bucket of money to do so. Fair enough. But we're seeing way more resources going into signing players for Lyon and Botafogo. Fair enough. Lyon are a Champions League, Europa League football club. Fair enough. Botafogo are a big club in Brazil. But I'm very worried about these Americans, all 3 of them. I'm not hearing people trying to protect the likes of Texter and Harris and Blitzer. Harris and Blitzer want out. So if they want out, who's Paris trying to get in? Because the lack of investment in this squad is glaringly obvious now. We have players at the football club we've been way too loyal to. And look, it's an endearing trait. But the more loyal to players you are that aren't performing to the level you need, the more likelihood you're going down. Ward should have been replaced 2-3 years ago under Roy. But Roy tried to do the best he could with what little resources we had. Milivojevic should have been moved on. Schlupp should have been moved on. Riedewald should have been moved on. Riedewald is a flop from the De Boer era. Not to Gyro's discredit, because he's done everything he can, but it's just not worked out for him. But look at the level of players that other clubs have gone and signed. The team we hate the most have surpassed us comfortably, and we've been in the league longer than them. So I understand that we don't have an endless bucket of money and what have you, and we are trying to rebuild the main stand. So money is being prioritized in other areas. But it's our lack of forward planning going way back under even Allardyce and these other managers It's bitten us on the arse now because Fulham played us off the park. Nottingham Forest played us off the park without us even putting a tackle in, without us even remotely putting a mark on them. We got lucky away at West Ham. Even though we dominated that game, we only got away with it because of a deflection. And I can't tell the difference between West Ham and Palace because we both look awful. If we're not careful this January, and the rumor is it's all loan signings, right? All right, cool, loan signings. Somebody want to tell me who we're linked with on loan then? Because Wan-Bissaka ain't going in on loan because United will ask for a crazy fee we won't pay. So, I mean, look, in a perfect world, I'd say blood some kids. Sorry, they can't do any worse than what we're seeing at the moment. But we know we won't be blooding the kids because if the kids have a bad game, there's going to be the same people that are giving out now, slating those kids, even though they've literally come in for one game. But you can't tell me Wells Morrison, Killian Phillips, and a few others wouldn't have done any better. You know, yesterday, Nottingham Forest and a few other games, as JC alluded to earlier, the warning signs were there, but people just didn't want to say it. And I think we as a channel are guilty of not criticizing Vieira enough. We've been protecting him and the players way too much. But yesterday, everyone just lost it. They were like, nah, listen, something's wrong here. So if it were me, Hughes, Riedewald, Luca, any of them can do a job. They're not the answer, but they're a stopgap until we find the answer. What that answer is, I don't know, because I don't see Parish finding unlimited money underneath the back of the couch because he can't even find his wallet half the time. So I don't know the answer, Rich, but yesterday's game proved to me, and I hope to a lot of the rest of us, money needs to be spent in the summer in particular, but serious recruitment needs to be done to try and not even catch up with other teams like Brighton. But for the love of God, close the gap. It's embarrassing seeing them above us the way they are. You know, and look, don't get me wrong, they've done well to recruit, but my God in heaven, we've been in the league longer than them, and they've overtaken us already. Like, are you mugging me right now? Oh, God.
You know, it's bad. They're clear. They're clear. The whole structure and setup, they're clear. We are so far. And what, you know, when I look at all the Premiership clubs, we might actually be bottom when it comes to actually just having a structure, like a proper setup. Because even with the teams that are below us at the moment, even like with Leeds and Southampton and Wolves and West Ham, they've all actually got a better structure than we have. They're just having a terrible season.
We've gotten lucky that we've had the likes of Norwich, QPR, Cardiff, Huddersfield, and all these other teams. They've looked worse than us. So that's given us the false confidence that, oh, well, we're not as bad as them. But we're still, amazingly, after 10 years in this division, we're still trying to act as if we've just come out of the Championship.
Yeah,
we're touching 10 years after that in May. May of next year will be 10 years since we won promotion. So, like, I'm actually mystified because you've got to say, where's the money gone? Do you know what I mean? It's not a case of we haven't had money to spend, but we've bought bad in so many windows that it's bitten us on the arse. Imagine we were signing players like Friars, Campbell, Kebe, Campagna. You're thinking Wolves are getting João Moutinho. Brighton are getting Trossard. And we're signing random Donnies from Turkey like Alexander Solot, who was a Turkey.
Let's put that into context as well. Wolves are signing João Moutinho when they're in the Championship.
Yep.
I'm gonna show something that I saw tactically. Just add this screen up now, and I know JC's gonna add to this as well. This is how we set up. Well, we were set up for goal kicks, but I want to focus on Fulham. Fulham are the Black Dots, all right? And I want to give Fulham their credit. They did their homework. They were brilliant yesterday. So yes, we were terrible.
They didn't need to do the homework, Rich. We made it easy for them.
I get that, but they deserve credit.
Oh yeah, 100%. They were the better team by far, but it says a lot that a newly promoted team is outplaying us at home, and we're getting embarrassed emphatically.
100%. So obviously Fulham are in black, all right, the Black Dots, and obviously our players are named. Now, let's start with Mitrovic. Anytime there's a goal kick, he played on Anderson's side, and he set himself up to the right to Anderson's right, so that Anderson couldn't turn out. So whenever Anderson did receive the ball, if he did, he would only have to go towards Tompkins. So that was one thing. They wanted Tompkins to get the ball. Now, when Tompkins did get the ball, Reed, because I can't pronounce his first name, Reed, normally you'll see a lot of the wingers, they kind of tuck in a sense, when doing the press. They were like, Fulham were like, no, that's fine. You know what? Have it on the inside. Because Mitchell, he gets the ball. What they've done is they've blocked off the pass down the line. That was the first thing. Block off the pass down the line, because that's where we get most of our joy. So Mitchell has to come inside. Once again, back to Tompkins or into Schlupp, who, with his back to goal, is dreadful. You know, and obviously they had Pereira did a decent job in trying to follow the Corey around. He did a very good job with that and such. The next problem we had, Eze. Eze just kept doing this, which means Mitchell had no outlet anyway. And then, like I said, Mitchell having to use his right foot, massive problem for us. So either way, we were screwed. To Ayu's credit, he tried to keep the look, but he just wanted to get into the game. He then started drifting in and such. So everywhere, we've got no outlet. When we eventually then thought, okay, we've got no options, Tompkins will send the long ball up to Zaha, and Diop is mossing him off the ball every time. Absolutely every time. The only time we had success, and I said it, I was speaking to Jay, I was like, we just need to keep doing this. The only time we had any success against Fulham's press was when Anderson decided, hold on, let me see if I can get the lines. Right, when Anderson just decided to do this. Right into the channels. That's the only time we had any joy. Going in behind. And even when we went down to 10 men in the second half, we had a few chances where we just knocked the ball on. And this is why personally I feel Wolf playing up top doesn't work. You know, because those balls coming into Edward would at least hold the ball up. You know, and at least in that being able to get players into the game and stuff. We need to keep Elise out wide, because he doesn't work centrally for me. Eze needs to play in the 10. And what we need to do is, and I know it doesn't, let's just say it's Schlupp. He just needs to stay in and play a double pivot. We need to play 4-2-3-1 for the next 5 games and just see how we go with that. Because 4-3-3 ain't working because we don't have enough dynamic enough players. It worked with Gallagher last year because he was pressing.
It's been found out. That's what it is. Everyone knows we play 4-3-3.
Yeah.
The lack of tactical flexibility is killing us because, again, you look at the lack of proper recruitment, as JC was saying on every transfer show. He said Chris Richards weren't it, and you know what I mean. And this is not to knock Richards, but you look at, as I said, the lack of recruitment in key areas. It's bitten us firmly on the backside. And even now, you're thinking to yourself, "Well, hang on a minute, who plays at left back against Bournemouth? Read about." I'm hearing people say Adaramola. I went, no, come now. As much as I would love him to have a blinding game, it ain't happening. If Omalabu, who was killing it last season, or the season before, sorry, isn't getting a look in the first team, what chances has Adaramola got when he could get in the Coventry team on loan? Do you know what I mean? I understand people want to see young players come through, but it's just not happening. And you're right, Rich. You look at the way Fulham set up. It wasn't even hard for them to realize, oh, Palace are playing 4-3-3. We had them on toast here. We got not even cooked. We got barbecued.
Yeah.
Almost charcoal settings. I'm thinking, yo, how are we getting cooked at home by a team that were in the Championship last season? Credit to them. They were brilliant last season in the Championship. They thoroughly deserve to come up. But like I said, teams from the Championship now know how to play against us because our lack of forward planning. See, we're being tricked by the great window we had last summer. Or the 2 summers ago when Vieira first came in, Elise and all that. Great. Where was that this season? We were all looking for a level up in key areas of the pitch because Ayew, Milivojevic, Ward, that this goes on. Should have been phased out last season. They're just not going to cut it no longer. And look, Ward wouldn't have done any worse yesterday. So to be fair to some of these players, they couldn't have done any worse than the players that played yesterday. But look what happened. We've got one left back at the club. He's now suspended. And people were saying, no, we don't need a left back in the summer. No, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Mitchell's the best left back we've ever had. Right. I'd take Dean Moxey for the next 5 games if I had to give the option. Do you know that? Stick me at left back. Do you know what I mean? I might have one leg at the moment, but I do a damn better job than half of the broads on Twitter and Facebook. I can't take it seriously anymore, Rich. I don't understand.
Sorry, Nate, but that's the thing, isn't it? Like with like recruitment's so important because, like, for example, if you look at some teams who have maybe dropped off a little bit, it's because they haven't recruited properly, even for one window. Like, for example, look at Wolves. They find themselves in the position they do because, I mean, they did get unlucky with their striker getting a bad injury, but one of the main reasons because they didn't replace that. They didn't find anyone who was able to play there. Like, they had one striker, he got injured, and then that's why they find themselves in the relegation zone. Look at Stoke. Stoke at one point under Mark Hughes were like 9th, maybe even 8th, and then a couple of bad windows that they just didn't recruit. What happens? Relegated. Bit more of a higher example. Look at Liverpool, for example. Liverpool didn't recruit to the same level that City did. That's why Liverpool find themselves not in the title race, whereas City do. It happens at every single level in the Premier League. If you don't recruit consistently at every window, you like you say, it'll bite you on the arse.
Dan, you got to look at it. City won the league last season. They still went out and bought Haaland. Even though they've got Mahrez, at the time Sterling, they've got Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan. You're looking at these and you're saying to yourself, granted, City have untold riches, Newcastle now have untold riches, Chelsea have got money, right? Arsenal have done exactly what we would have wanted us to do, is we are not going to be at the level we want to be, but let's build towards getting there. Mm-hmm. And we thought that bringing in Elise, bringing in Anderson, Mark Gay, who else did we bring in? Obviously Gallagher.
Hughes.
Edward. Technically Mateta.
Yeah,
Mateta as well. And, look, I get it. As I said at the start of the show, we don't have a bottomless bucket of money to just fling around. But between Blitzer, Harris, and Texter, not all 3 of them, it looks sketchy. And JC's been saying it, and some people didn't want to hear it, but I'm not convinced of these Americans, and I haven't liked these Americans for some time now, because American owners are very, very, very sticky. And look, Parrish has tried to do the best he can for the club. I don't really like the guy, but I'll give him credit. He had to sign the deal with the devil, but I'm worried because if we don't get this January window sorted first, the summer's going to be very, very worrying because I don't see Will staying.
No, Will's gone.
Do you know what I mean? And then you look at, right, can we keep hold of Elise? At the moment, he's not really pulling trees up, so that's probably a good thing for us. Eze is just about beginning to come back to his best, but yesterday he wasn't anonymous, but that's not his fault, playing out of position and looked every bit like he was out of position. But imagine Sheikh Doucouré has to do the job of 3 midfielders.
Well, this is it. And I think...
And he's still doing a good job of it as well. That's the thing that I'm most impressed about.
100%. He's a consummate professional, and we're lucky to have him. But what annoys me is I was listening to the commentary yesterday on the app, and I was thinking, how is Doucouré literally having to clone himself twice over just to cover the massive chasm of a gap in our midfield? You could fit all of South London in our midfield yesterday. And I'm there thinking, fair enough. Fulham are smart enough to understand that we are exploitable in midfield. Nottingham Forest ran rings around us, and these 2 poor buggers went up there to watch that. They should have been refunded. And I tweeted out yesterday and I got in trouble for it.
Which
club are going to refund? Only True Eagles don't want a refund. Yeah, mate. All right, cool. Say that. But I'm looking at this now and thinking, wait a minute.
The £3.
No, but imagine people paid money to watch that yesterday.
Well, you'd have had more fun down the pub. Yeah, I really hate to say it, but I've been looking for left back. I've been saying we need left backs ever since Van Aanholt left. And even before Van Aanholt left, we needed left back.
Yeah, you were saying it for time, but like I said, nobody wanted to listen. Everybody was saying, "No, we're fine. We don't worry, don't worry." They're worried now, innit?
The worst thing that could have happened to Mitchell was getting called up to England, because ever since then, he's been whack. He's been crap. He's been terrible. Because it's always the same thing, innit? They go to England, all the big Man City, Liverpool guys trying to be your friends, and come to Liverpool, come to Man United, come to City. He goes back to Palace and thinks, "Oh, I'm too good for this. I don't need to try anymore." And guess what? That's what happened. Like the other day, he had a really shocking performance, got frustrated with himself, and then let his head go. You don't do that if you're a top player. If you want to be in one of those teams in the future, and you're trying to use Palace as a stepping stone to get there, you will not make those kind of rash decisions. Because that's the reason why, let's be real, that's probably the reason Zaha hasn't left us for all these years, because of his ability to just snap on someone like that. And I know he's got this rumor over his head, oh, he gets sent off all the time for being stupid. It don't happen all the time. But the one time it happens, everyone's going to remember it forever. And I think that's just like a thing that happens. It's just frustrating. Yeah. Just very frustrating.
Yeah. JC, you've got a screen to share, and you made a few observations yourself.
Well, yeah, it's basically the exact same thing that Richard said, but this is like exactly how they set up whenever we took a goal kick, because the only option that was on was always Tompkins. Fulham just sat off. They let Tompkins do whatever the hell he wanted, because if we're being real, he kept passing to Reed. And it wasn't even like he was trying to pass to anyone else. Yeah. He would just send the ball forwards and hope for the best. But he just passed it straight to Reed.
All right, don't make me bring up a Chuckle Brothers reference. To me, to you. That's what it sounds like. Jesus Christ.
I'll put it this way. Whenever he tried to play out, Decore was doing the most, trying to shake off Pereira. But if they're man-for-man marking you, it's hard to shake off someone. You've got to try and break the lines. So you'd think, okay, why not try that? You know where the ball ended up, though, right?
Probably smacked some old gear in the back of the arse.
I don't even know if this app will let it, but the ball was out here, man. The ball's out of play.
Yeah, do you know what? It smacked somebody in the back of the arth away. Some poor boy got it smack in the face. Boom!
Yeah, but Marco Silva, as Rich said, he done his homework, because Tompkins didn't have the eye to see the ball to Elise, which was probably the one pass which was on in the situation. But it's just the fact that Elise was never actually here. And I think that's where the problem comes when you talk about him in midfield specifically, because there are midfielders like Bernardo Silva, who I would probably say isn't as strong. I'd say Elise is probably stronger than him. But Bernardo Silva is such a good midfielder because he will always make the space. He will come short so that this pass is on, because you break the line there. But Elise would just be doing whatever the hell he wanted, and he wasn't actually in his correct position. And I think that's where we went wrong. And I also believe that in a very weird way, our whole system revolves around Schlupp having a good game. If Schlupp doesn't have a good game, our midfield is finished. Yeah, because we already know without even starting the game, Elise is not going to help out defensively or to pass out. Let's be real. If Schlupp has a bad game, this whole midfield is finished. It's really just Decore.
JC, it's not even finished. It's a myth.
And I think that to place so much responsibility on someone that probably doesn't deserve to start in a midfield. He's bought as a left back that doesn't want to play left back anymore. He's never been a good midfielder. And I think certain games we thought that he's changed, he's a good midfielder. He's just had a good run and scored. He scored a few goals.
He's good as an impact sub. That's where Schlupp shines, is when you bring him off the bench.
But for a midfield place, we need someone that is a week in, week out, 8 or 7 out of 10. The same as Decore. He's week in, week out, 7, 8 out of 10. But Schlupp will be 2 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And we can't have that in our midfield.
You know what? As you were saying in the summer, JC, we should have gone for either Sumare or Fofana alongside Decore. But nah, don't worry about it, lads. You boys in Eagle-Eyed Football, you're talking rubbish. You guys don't know what you're talking about. We're fine. Lord Parish will save us. Yeah, good luck with that with your extra Parish points. JC was saying it all throughout the transfer shows. So, if anything, you've been vindicated here, mate.
My personal opinion, I don't actually think Eze should even be in a midfield such as this. I reckon the only way Eze gets into a midfield is if there's 2 6s.
Yeah, I agree.
Eze doesn't work in a 6-8-10. He doesn't work in that 10 because he'll still have to do some defending. If it's 2 6s and a 10, he'll work in there. Which is why I was pushing so hard for like I know it's never going to happen, but Decore and someone like Sangare or something like that. Just 2 guys that are defensive beasts that can go forwards if needed. And that creates the perfect double pivot, gives Eze the freedom in that midfield to do whatever the hell he wants, to put the ball out wide to Wilf, to put the ball out wide to Elise, or even shove it straight down the middle and see what Edouard does. That is the perfect situation that this Crystal Palace team will thrive in, but I don't know if it's going to happen. And I think one point I'd just like to touch on very briefly, I've got a sneaking suspicion that Vieira wants to change us to a 3 at the back.
Anything's better than what we've witnessed lately, so I'm willing to see change if change happens. Now, whether it brings good results remains to be seen, but let's be honest, the 4-3-3 ain't working no more. It's been found out.
I think the problem is as well is that you think the 3 midfielders last season who played the most was Gallagher, MacArthur, and Koyate. 2 of them are no longer at the club, and one of them is, where he's in his mid-30s. He's now getting injured. How much is he realistically going to be able to play again? Don't know.
I don't think he has played all season. I don't think he has played all season, Mac. I don't think Mac has played a game for us.
No, I don't think so. But that's what I mean. So he's in theory not available. So last season, I think it worked very well because MacArthur and Gallagher balanced each other really well.
Yeah,
either side of Koyate. But now we don't have those 3 players. It doesn't make sense to be playing that formation when we haven't even got those players anymore. Yeah. And I agree. I think Eze needs to be like a free roaming 10 with 2 sitters. And to be honest, the sitters themselves, I think, can join the attack as long as someone stays back. Like, for example, if it's on the right-hand side, Decore could push up. If the attack's on the right, Decore could push up a little bit. Or if it was on the left, then whoever the left sitter is, let's say Hughes could push up a bit while Decore sits back and vice versa. I don't see why that can't happen. And one thing that has really frustrated me, actually, and I don't know if this is Vieira saying it, I'm guessing it must be, but our fullbacks just don't overlap either. Like, for example, yesterday, I remember it distinctly that we had Elise was kind of like in the half-ish space, kind of inside. And then we had Ayew on the side with the ball, going up, sort of on the wing. It was crying out for Klein to overlap him. But did that happen? No, it didn't. And the thing that confuses me is that Nathaniel Klein, when he started with us, when he was at Southampton, when he was at Liverpool, would overlap. I mean, I know he's a bit older now, but I think he's still more than capable of overlapping. So why they're not doing that, I don't know. Because the thing is, then that creates more space for them to run into. The more, generally as a rule, from what I've seen, is that the more runs you make, the more space you make. So therefore, the more opportunities you can make. Even if you don't necessarily get the ball, you running make space for other people.
You make a Solid point there, because when I look at Fulham yesterday, Robinson and Tete were just doing that. And the greatest example against us this season that I've seen was Brentford. Henry and who's up our side?
Hickey, right?
Nicky. Oh my gosh, non-stop, 90 minutes like that. It was something. It was. I mean, obviously, as a Palace fan, it was like, this is stressful. But like, if I was to put my neutral head in, I was like, those fullbacks are brilliant. They're absolutely incredible. You know. Last bit though, Dan. Pull up some stats. I know we're already depressed as it is, but
yeah. So I was saying to the guys before we actually got onto the stream that looking at stats actually made me a bit more depressed because they were worse than what I thought. So XG for 0.4. XG against 2.5. We had 4 shots versus their 23. Now, I know we were down to 9 men for a decent portion, but we had 1 shot between 0 minutes and Mitchell getting sent off. 0 of them were on target, which means that 0 shots on target is the joint worst with the Forest game, which, considering they are consecutive games, is pretty worrying, in my opinion. And it is the worst, it's the least amount of shots we've had apart from City away, which is City away, so you're not going to get shots. And possession-wise, I didn't get the number, but it was the fewest touches in the opposition box after City away as well. And I think the one that really put it for me, and this is the players' fault. So possession-wise, we had 36% of the ball. They had 64% of the ball. Now, the thing that goes with that is that we made 26 tackles and interceptions, right? So bearing in mind that we had the ball nearly double, I would say about 1.8 times more. No, they had the ball 1.8 times more than we did. Fulham still made 25 tackles and interceptions. So basically what that means is that they've had the ball 1.8 times more than us and yet still made the same amount of successful interceptions and tackles. So to me, that suggests that, like, I know it depends on how passive you want to be and stuff like that, but to me, that just suggests that there was no impetus to even try and win the ball. And I've got a couple others. This isn't to dig anyone out in particular, but I just thought it was pretty bad. Klein and Eze had the lowest pass percentages. What do you think their percentages were?
10%.
I'm guessing 42.
So Eze's was higher at 68.8, and Klein had 55.6% pass accuracy.
I was proper harsh, boy.
It's really a 50-50 if it get there or not.
Yeah, literally. Which
hit it and hope for the
best.
I
said, I'm not digging them out in particular because at the end of the day, everyone was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was pretty bad reading. And I think for me, the worst one for me is the 0 shots on target, which we've done now. Like Nate said earlier, it's the first time. Would you say it was the first time a Premier League team has done that?
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I don't know how far those stats go back, but if that's included in 2008-09 with Derby County when they got 11 points, that is not a good stat to have.
Do you know what's even more annoying? Every home game we've played a London team, we've dropped points in every game. You look at Brentford at home, 1-0 up, drew 1-1. Chelsea at home, 1-0 up, lost 2-1. Arsenal at home, lost 2-0. Got battered 3-0 by Fulham there just on Boxing Day. And yes, I'm aware we played some quality sides, but I don't know what it is with us, especially London derbies. We never, ever turn up for derbies at home. And even when we do, we narrowly lose, like West Ham at home last season, where at least say, crack that fantastic free kick in. And don't get me wrong, Fulham thoroughly deserved their win yesterday. But it is damning that we're dropping points at home in London derbies. We don't have Watford to slap around, anymore. We can't rely on Watford for 6 points. So what's peed me off about this is, like I said, and like we've all been saying, We know we can't beat everyone every week. That's fair enough. But where was the effort yesterday? We got, well, not we, but people, those of you that went to the game yesterday got conned into partying with your hard-earned money to get served up a steaming pile of, well, I won't say it, but you get the idea. Dog business. Because that's all it was. And I'm just so happy I didn't watch it, because I would have just flung my phone at the computer monitor in the office, because I was getting more and more worked up the minute I kept hitting. I mean, I think one notable incident was Ayew was fouled. The referee indicates play on. Mitrovic hits the deck. Tompkins gets a second yellow. But my bugbear with Vieira yesterday was, why wasn't Tompkins taken off on a yellow card? The lack of tactical options in that game is just as annoying as the performance. Because you're thinking a half-fit Chris Richards is less of a threat than a defender who's clearly passed his best on a yellow card for a brain-dead decision to go in on a challenge like that. Now, granted, I know we're not blessed with deep squad depth, but again, if we're not going to be spending a whole heap of money in January, either blood some kids or hope to God the loan market blesses us again, because we've been stung with some awful loans in January. Sonogo, Kevin Doyle. I'm aware these are all strikers, but you get the idea. We don't have a good record at loan deals in the January market, so don't expect miracles, people. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh, by the way, we also signed a certain, Patrick Bamford on loan in that, and that the less said about that, the better.
Oh,
I can just see that stress going through the roof. I don't mean to stress you out, but do you know what I mean? This is how peak it is. We're being told to hope for miracles on the loan market. And I went, Palace, January loan market. We're taking some Donny from the second division of Spain who hasn't scored in 600 years of football. This is going to be painful, isn't it?
I just hope there's changes for the Bournemouth game, man. Honestly, because that's not going to be an easy game either.
We're getting bopped if we play like that again. Just straight up bopped.
100%. But yeah, people, this is your Fulham match reaction. We don't even need to do
nothing special. We don't shoot at all.
How shit must you be? It's only 3-0.
You know what I'm saying? Trust me.
It's honestly, it's terrible. Terrible performance and stuff. But guys, listen, please drop your thoughts and views in the comment section. Drop your own player ratings as well in the comment section. Your man of the match, if there was one. For me, it's Ayew, and that's not saying much.
For me, it's the fans, because they paid to watch that.
Yeah, I'll take that then.
God bless those of you that actually paid money to watch that, because honestly, if there was any other business, you'd have got a refund. That was not worth your season ticket. Oh, mate.
100%. And actually, that actually reminds me, obviously, rest in peace, Maxi Jez. You know,
100% rest in peace to Maxi
Jez. Obviously, such a young age. It was obviously a nice tribute for us to come out to his song in Samina. And we obviously had the clap at 65 minutes, I believe it was. Yeah, if there's any plus side, we gave him a really, really good sending off.
We've lost a true legend of British music and a true legend in the Palace fan base. So listen, R.I.P. Maxi Jaz. I mean, we were all shocked when we heard the news, because we were thinking, nah, surely not. But sadly, you know, he did pass away. But we waited 6 weeks to watch Palace again, and look what we got.
I'm not going to lie. After this, I need to go down and have a beer or something, because this is stressed me out again.
Pardon my French, but Merry freaking Christmas, Palace fans. Merry Christmas. Bar humbug to the lot of you. We'll see you for the Bournemouth game.
And hopefully we can actually say Happy New Year. My goodness, guys. Love you.
Nah, we don't do that.
Eagles.
Eagles.